Okay, let's just get right into this. Loki, Doctor Doom, and the absolute rebirth of reality. We are looking at what is undoubtedly the most monumental shift in cinematic history right now. I want to dive deep into exactly how Loki's incredibly beautiful sacrifice was honestly just the prologue to his greatest tragedy. You know, when I first watched Loki grab onto those dying timelines, watching him ascend to that lonely golden throne at the very end of time, it really felt like a definitive conclusion, didn't it? It felt like the end of his story. But the truth of the matter is actually much darker. By taking that throne and basically becoming the living, beating battery of the multiverse, Loki put a massive glowing target right on his own back. He essentially placed himself on a direct, unavoidable collision course with Doctor Doom. And to understand exactly how these two cinematic titans are going to clash, and how this inevitable massive war is going to entirely rewrite reality as we know it, we really have to break down exactly who Loki has fundamentally become. When I was really trying to piece together Loki's multiversal trajectory, I kept returning to this one profound realization from his comic history. It's specifically from Loki, Agent of Asgard issue 13. The quote goes, "Mischief is just a story someone else tells about you. The real story is the one you tell about yourself." Now think about that for a second. For centuries, Loki was basically a prisoner of determinism. He was totally trapped in the role of the villain, bound by this cosmic script to just tell lies, cause absolute ruin, and inevitably always lose. But right there, in that moment, he comes to this brilliant, honestly staggering realization. Lies are just stories. And if he can tell a lie, well, he can tell a story. And if he can tell a story, he can completely rewrite the narrative itself. This is exactly the evolution we are witnessing right now. He didn't just become a keeper of time, he evolved into the omniscient god of stories. He is no longer just moving pieces around on a chessboard, he finally understands the actual meaning of the game itself. Now, what's really fascinating here is that this inevitable war isn't just going to be some physical punch fest, it is a fundamental, deep-rooted clash of ideologies. On one side, you have Loki. He represents ultimate chaos. In classic mythology, the agent of chaos exists purely to push others to greatness, right? Chaos forces heroes to adapt, to grow, to somehow overcome these impossible odds. Loki fought and quite literally bled for a multiverse where free will reigns completely supreme, even if that means things get messy and super unpredictable. Now flip to the exact opposite end of the spectrum, and you have Victor Von Doom. He represents ultimate order. Doom holds this terrifying, absolutely unshakable conviction that the universe is inherently broken. To him, it's a flawed machine that can only survive under his absolute iron-fisted control. He looks at that beautiful, chaotic, branching multiversal tree that Loki built, and he doesn't see life. He sees a disease, and it's a disease that he believes can only be cured through total subjugation. Let's actually trace the historical breadcrumbs of how we even arrived at this cosmic standoff. Step by step, Loki's whole existence has basically mirrored the Old Norse myth of Ragnarok. It's this endless, agonizing, really tragic loop. Just think about his journey for a minute. Back in 2011, his betrayal is what ultimately forged Thor into a worthy king. In 2012, his whole invasion of New York was the exact catalyst that forced Earth's mightiest heroes to actually unite for the very first time. Jump to Ragnarok, and he literally brought about planetary destruction purely to cause a necessary rebirth for his people. And then in Infinity War, his brutal death really only served to establish the terrifying, inevitable threat of Thanos. The pattern here is just heartbreaking. Loki has historically been trapped in this awful cycle of suffering, basically just acting as a stepping stone to make everyone else, Thor, the Avengers, the whole universe, better heroes. He was the perpetual catalyst, forever denied his own personal growth. So the big question is, how do you break a cycle that is literally written into the very fabric of the cosmos? Well, you have to look outside of it. He Who Remains and the Time Variance Authority, they had the entire universe locked in this perfectly closed circle of determinism. It was a sacred timeline where free will was just a complete illusion, and Loki was fundamentally designed to always lose. But Loki did something truly unthinkable to break that determinism. He didn't seize power so he could rule, he seized it to suffer. I want you to really imagine the sheer physical agony of grabbing hold of cold, dying timelines with your bare hands. He sacrificed his physical freedom, his closest friendships, his own chance at happiness, to literally weave those temporal threads together into Yggdrasil, the multiversal world tree. He took the agonizing burden of infinity entirely onto his own shoulders, just sitting in total isolation at the end of time. But here's the catch. In doing so, he concentrated all the power of reality into one single physical location. Now, this is where things get really wild. The crucial piece of this puzzle is time slipping. Forget DeLoreans. Forget the quantum realm. When literally anyone else in this universe travels through time, they do not change their own past. They simply branch off and create a totally new alternate reality. That is the established, absolutely unbreakable rule of time travel here. But Loki's time slipping, it completely shatters that rule. He has this unique, totally unprecedented ability to physically inject himself into a timeline and directly rewrite history without causing a multiversal branch. He can edit reality in real time. Let me make this completely clear because it's so important. This makes Loki the only being in all of existence who possesses true God-level editing access to the universe. It is a wildly overpowered, awe-inspiring ability. And unfortunately for him, that is the exact power Dr. Doom needs to steal to enact his grand vision. Let me walk you through exactly how I see Dr. Doom's grand design playing out, step by agonizing step. Honestly, it plays out like a slow, inevitable horror movie. First, Doom is going to master dreamwalking to cross between universes, but he's quickly going to realize that this causes catastrophic incursions, entire realities violently crashing into one another. He needs a surgical scalpel, not a sledgehammer, which means he desperately needs Loki's time-slipping power. Step 2. Doom will invade the void at the end of time, just tearing right through whatever defenses the TVA has left. Step 3. As a master sorcerer, he's going to command that massive temporal beast Alioth to part the clouds, allowing him to breach the shattered remnants of the Citadel. And finally, step 4. He will march right up to the center of the multiversal tree, look the totally exhausted God of Stories dead in the eye, and execute him. Historically, in the comics, Doom always steals his godhood from cosmic beings. To Doom, Loki is simply his next battery. So what happens when you brutally murder the beating heart of the multiverse? Reality entirely shatters. Let me paint this terrifying picture for you. When Doom rips Loki from that throne and steals his power, the world tree is going to wither and completely collapse. All of existence will fall straight down into the endless garbage dump of the void. But Doom, who now possesses this stolen omnipotence, will act as the ultimate god. He's going to take the bleeding, shattered continents of these dead universes and stitch them together like some grotesque Frankenstein monster. This is Battleworld. But the true horror of Battleworld isn't physical. It is deeply psychological. It's a totalitarian regime where Victor Von Doom is God Emperor, and every single inhabitant, every hero we have grown to love, has had their memories completely scrubbed. They are totally robbed of their identities, living as amnesiac slaves who genuinely believe Doom has benevolently ruled over them since the dawn of time. But hold on, because here is the absolute greatest twist of this entire saga. The massive detail everyone is just blowing right past. Loki is the god of stories. He is omniscient. He has quite literally read the script. My working theory here is that Loki isn't going to be taken by surprise by Doom at all. He already knows Dr. Doom is marching toward his throne. He knows the timeline is destined to collapse. So instead of fighting this catastrophic battle that would just tear the fragile multiverse apart anyway, Loki is going to willingly walk right into his own assassination. He is going to literally let Doom step up to the throne and strike the killing blow. Why? Because dying is simply step 1 of a massive, reality-bending heist. Okay, so how does he pull this off? The mechanical genius of this escape plan happens in literal microseconds. Right before Doom's fatal strike actually lands, Loki will use his absolute mastery of time slipping to cleanly split the timeline. In the blink of an eye, he is going to forge a hidden, impenetrable pocket universe. Think of it as a safe haven, entirely cloaked from Doom's all-seeing eyes, like a magical life raft built specifically to survive the multiversal collapse. Loki is going to smuggle the memories, the souls, or perhaps even the physical bodies of key heroes directly into this pocket reality, which means the Loki sitting on the throne, the one Doom executes and drains of power, will just be a brilliant, tragic decoy. It's an illusion of sacrifice specifically designed to hand Doom a flawed, incomplete version of his power, buying the universe the precious time it desperately needs to eventually fight back. I really want you to imagine the sheer cinematic spectacle of this moment. We are deep into Battleworld, Doom rules with an absolute iron fist, and the heroes are just lost, broken servants to his regime. And then, out of nowhere, from the deepest shadows of this patchwork reality, the god of mischief returns. Loki will step out of his pocket dimension, carrying the preserved truth of the old multiverse. And he's going to do exactly what he has always done best, but this time, he's doing it for the right reasons. He will weave through the ranks, slipping right past Doom's guards, and he'll start whispering the true stories back into the minds of the fallen Avengers. He is going to systematically shatter Doom's illusions, waking up Earth's mightiest heroes one by one, uniting them to mount the ultimate rebellion. That, my friends, is the true secret war. And that leads us directly into what I think will be the emotional crescendo of this entire multi-decade journey, the final battle against Emperor Doom. Picture the sky absolutely burning over Battleworld. Heroes are falling left and right. Doom is unleashing the furious stolen magic of the cosmos. And there is Loki, stripped of all his illusions, bruised, bleeding, throwing himself directly into the line of fire to save the very universe he once tried to subjugate. In that split second of ultimate self-sacrifice, as he lays literally everything on the line to dethrone Doom, imagine him reaching out his hand. He's not reaching for a trick, and he's not reaching for a crown. He's reaching for salvation. The thunder cracks. Will the universe's most dramatic, perpetual villain finally feel the leather grip of Mjolnir slam into his palm? I genuinely believe he will. I believe that by sacrificing himself completely, he will finally prove his worth to the universe, to Thor, and to the memory of his father once and for all. So when the dust finally settles and Battleworld inevitably crumbles, Loki's stolen power is going to return to him. But here's the thing, he isn't going to rebuild that messy, fragile world tree. Instead, he will use his godhood one last time to forge a massive soft reset of reality itself. I really want you to understand exactly the scale of what this means. It won't be a tangled, incredibly dangerous web of multiverses anymore. He's going to weave it all into one single, beautifully unified timeline, a reality where the mutants and the Fantastic Four have natively existed all along, perfectly and seamlessly integrated into the history of the Avengers. Those chaotic branching timelines? Gone. The cold, sterile bureaucracy of the TVA? Erased forever. He will build a seamless, harmonious universe where all these heroes can finally stand side by side without the constant existential threat of multiversal incursions. And after all that, what happens to the god of stories when the story is finally fixed? Well, he gets to put down the pen. For the first time in his endlessly tragic, looping existence, Loki will be relieved of his glorious purpose. The universe will be safe, not because it's controlled by some iron-fisted dictator, but because it was completely healed by a selfless sacrifice. I absolutely love picturing this quiet, deeply satisfying resolution. After carrying the literal weight of infinite timelines, Loki will finally step down from godhood. He's going to walk away from the thrones, the heavy crowns, the exhausting magic. He will just be a man, finally free, pulling up to some sun-drenched coastline, ready to just ride jet skis with his best friend, Mobius. Let that silence, that incredible earned peace finally breathe. So I'm going to leave you with this final, truly provocative thought. If we look back at the entire sprawling epic of this cinematic universe, from his very first bitter betrayal back in Asgard, all the way to his calculated, magnificent demise at the hands of Dr. Doom, if Loki intentionally orchestrated his own downfall, willingly absorbing the pain of 1,000 lifetimes just to forge a flawless, unified reality for everyone else to thrive in, we honestly have to rethink everything. Is the God of Mischief the exact same character we were introduced to as a vain, petty tyrant all those years ago actually the single greatest hero that reality has ever known? It completely rewrites cinematic history, and I, for one, absolutely cannot wait to see it unfold.